All right, Scorpio. So very simply here, it's time to start thinking logically and reasonably about why you are so focused on the things that you do not have right now. So reason, listen to advice, think clearly, and intellect, and then the hungry ghosts. Obsession, scarcity, consciousness, and attachment. The good news is that this showed up as a challenge, which in this case would be better. But reason is saying that you need to clear your mind now and think through the details of a dilemma. So for some of you, it's needing to start thinking logically about how you are going to achieve your goals rather than focusing on the things that you are lacking or feeling like you are missing in your life. When you're looking at the hungry ghosts as a challenge, one of the other things that it talks about, though, is the comparisons that are being made. So it asks, are you comparing your experience with others? Do you envy their success? Do you judge yourself only on your material accomplishments? And it's basically saying that that lack that you're focused on is an illusion. And again, you need to look at all the things that you've accomplished and be happy with that, be grateful for that, but you also need to think clearly about whether or not what you're lacking is something that you actually need or something that you should be trying to accomplish, right? Because if you don't have it, maybe it's because you're meant for something better. That's kind of how I look at this, but you know better. You know better than to think this way. All right, Scorp. Here's your overall. The Seven of Cups. Fantasizing about how good things could be, not making something reality here. I don't necessarily feel like it has to do, with options available to you. You're not seeing the best choice for yourself right now. You're too focused on something that you may have been hoping was going to work out. But we'll see how this is playing out here. So in the past, the Page of Swords, and that may be the problem. So the Page of Swords is the past. Oh, this one drives me nuts. This could be about you getting unexpected bad news, because that is the Page of Swords. For some of you, there is like an ability not to accept what is being communicated to you, looking at the Seven of Cups, because you're still looking at, there's still a possibility, but, maybe there isn't, and maybe you need to kind of like let that go. And again, get rid of that emotional attachment to how something could have been, because that's not the reality there. But definitely with the Page of Swords, we're talking about something that you didn't want to hear. And then not only that, but for some of you, it definitely having a hard time processing some information here. But then I also look at the Page of Swords as like half-truths. Not getting full disclosure here, needing to ask more questions, not completely understanding why something is not becoming reality. Oh boy. In the present, the Tower. And what I worry about here with the Seven of Cups is that you're just kind of like left standing in it and trying to figure things out. So with the Tower, something that abruptly changes for you. You're not doing this though, and that's my problem. Because with the Seven of Cups being the overall, you're not taking the action to do anything here. You're just left to think about how, like I said, things could be. So with the Tower in the present moment, it's like abrupt, boom, it's done, it's over with, but you're still left with the rubble right now and not really moving forward here. Now, that's only going to be for some of you. On the other hand, here, and we'll see what's happening with your environment, but with the Tower, it's sudden change, everything being cleared out. All of those things that weren't, real in the first place are going to come down. But again, it's to clear all that bullshit out. But I think you're having a hard time going, it should have worked. I don't understand. It should have worked. But there's still the feeling of maybe it wasn't meant for you, or it wasn't in your highest good, right? Oh, Scorp, yeah. Yes, yeah. You can't go back to this. You can't go back to this situation. I mean, clearly it's not something that you wanted to have happen. And I think that a lot of you are having a hard time facing it right now. But with death being in future conditions, we're still talking about you needing to go through that transformation and realizing that, what you were fantasizing about wasn't worthy of you in the first place with the Tower, right? To me, with the Page of Swords, this looks like communication that comes through that brings everything crashing down here. And with death, it's with the Seven of Cups, you having a hard time realizing that it's time to let it go, Scorp. Okay, your best path to follow, the Fool. I like that because to me, in terms of your advice, this is saying that you need to trust that there is a reason why this is collapsing or going away. So this is you needing to have faith here. Needing to have faith that the experience ahead is not going to be, what you've experienced here. But it is about you needing to take a risk here to do something different, right? Are there other things that, you have thought about doing now? Do you see that you now have the freedom to do this, right? But I think that for a lot of you, it's like, I need to just sit with this for a minute because I didn't expect this to happen. Not wanting to listen, not wanting to hear that kind of like communication of, I'm sorry, but what you're wanting isn't going to work. But the Fool there, I like, because there to me feels like there's something, much better, but you have to be willing here to kind of get out of this place of fantasizing and just go, take a new path, have a new experience, and let go, right? Let go, let the transformation happen. In your environment, the Page of Cups. So, and I'm looking at it this way. And with the Seven of Cups, I look at this and I feel like this is you. You're still in this place of like not kind of understanding the way that you're feeling about a situation that isn't working out and collapsing on you, right? But we're definitely talking about the communication of emotions here. And I think for you, you're still in a place of like dreaming about how, you had felt at one point. Because I look at the Page of Cups and I think purity of emotions, but it's also naive. But what I worry about though here too is that you may be dealing with somebody who's very immature between the two pages. Scorp. Well, this is something you definitely have to let go of though. Your hopes and your fears, the Four of Swords. So I look at that, and with the Tower, what I worry about is that for some of you, you're continuing to like try to communicate the way that you feel in hopes that, this isn't going to collapse on you. But with the Page of Swords kicking this off, this is something that is definitely, with death done and over with. And it needs to be. It needs to be in order for you to change, for things to change for you, right? And I still go back to the Fool and think you need to have faith in this process here, and you need to be willing to take a risk on something else, because whatever it is that you're attached to right now is just not meant for you. The Four of Swords, looking at that, I mean, absolutely, we're talking about you needing to kind of take a time out here, think clearly, and go through a recovery. But I think that the fear there is that there's no more communication coming through. And that may be something that you're having a hard time accepting, especially if somebody was, communicating to you, possibly manipulating your emotions, and then all of a sudden they just kind of stop. Like, why am I not hearing anything? I'm not understanding. Like, I'm not understanding why this didn't work out. But, and I hate saying this, it wasn't meant for you. It wasn't meant for you to have. But that's only because there's something so much better. I keep getting that message too this week. And then coming out the Six of Swords, which is good. That is what I'd like to see coming out of the situation. So I think that when you finally get to the point where you realize that it's not worth trying to communicate anymore, you go through this kind of recovery, hopefully here with the Four of Swords, the communication stops and you're ready to move on. But I do think that there's still a part of you that is still kind of focused on the how things could have been. You know, whether we're talking about a career opportunity or a relationship here. And I do think that for some of you, it may have to do with a relationship. Because I feel like this is you with the Page of Cups. You know, and this, though, as far as the personality would be the other person, and them, you know, treating you in a way that's, you know, not coming from a place of experience. Because I look at this as you communicating this, even though you're already getting the message of what you don't want to hear, that somebody isn't, you know, accepting this. You're still kind of trying to process that based on the way that you're feeling. And I still think that for some of you, you're trying to reach out. But with the Tower, it's like, it's all kind of like falling apart and coming to an end for sure here. But with the Six of Swords, you're moving on, you're moving away here. And we are talking about you getting back to a place of being more emotionally stable and thinking clearly here, big time. But it's going to be about you needing to accept that that situation is over with. It is going to change you in a way where you realize that you're not going to be able to go back to this. It is over with once and for all here. And for a lot of you, it could be because somebody is not returning communication with you. Looking at the Four of Swords, you know, they're not going to talk to me, then I can't do this anymore. It has to be over with. But that's Seven of Cups, though. You know, you're still in that place of, and then the World, yeah, you're good. You're good. And I love the High Priestess vibe here to the World with this one. The Knight of Swords, I'm looking at the Page of Swords. Definitely here, somebody has communicated something to you in a very direct way, a very direct, honest way. And I do think that with the Page of Swords here, this isn't something that you wanted to hear. And I think that, you know, for a lot of you, it's kind of hard to accept or to process, or it was at least in the past here. And with the Tower, you know, I think that you're trying to like prevent this from kind of like collapsing and falling apart. That, or, you know, somebody else is doing that with you, because we could totally flip the script on this. And with the Seven of Cups, this could be you going, you know, I'm okay with thinking about how things could have been, but I know that that's not going to be reality. And that may be the shock coming to somebody else, you know. But I still feel like a lot of you may be dealing with a person here who is really immature, really immature. And they think that they may be acting with conviction here, but with the Page of Swords, again, it's like, they're saying it in a way that isn't giving you the full answers or giving you full understanding. Now, looking at Judgment, and with the Tower, you're going to be faced to kind of look at how, you know, this situation is collapsing on you here. But with Judgment, it's not about looking back on it and going, I'm so stupid, I should not have made that choice. It is what it is. And I hate that fucking saying. It drives me nuts, right? But you're going to be forced to review all of this, to look at all of this and understand now why this is going away now. But there is still, you know, this like naive emotional attachment to how things could have been. And like, I get it. And I get that, you know, some of you may feel like maybe if I just kind of communicate this, they'll understand, but they're not. They're not. And I don't think that it really matters anymore, you know. But it is clearing the slate big time here. I mean, big time, big time. But with the World, you are definitely going to get closure on this situation once you move on. Once you make the choice here to accept that this is something that is not going to come back. It's not going to be resurrected, so to speak. It's done and it's over with. It is going to change you, but it is going to change you in a way where things are going to be better. With the Fool, you're going to have an opportunity to follow a much different path here. And this is going to be the end of a major situation in your life. Something that, you've probably been dealing with for a while, possibly with somebody who, communicates these things to you, but maybe doing the come here, go away type of feeling. But I still, look at these two and I feel hopeful about it that, there's going to be that recovery. There's going to be that completion, right? You're going to feel better about moving on from this and letting it go. And then passion and pleasure, savor your life. There is more passion and pleasure to be had here. And there are other people around you. I almost look at that as whoever you're focused on right now, it's time to take that attention away from this person because they didn't deserve it from you in the first place. There is beautiful things in your life to enjoy, right? And there are other people to enjoy it with. Whoever you're dealing with here, for those of you who are dealing with a person, especially within a relationship, they weren't worthy of you. They were not worthy of you. Let all of that go. Once you let all of that go and you let go of an idea here of, possibly trying to bring it back to life, things will get better. Things will get so much better. You need to take that kind of risk here and just on an emotional level here, let that idea of how things could have been go completely and move on from this and move away from it. There's no point in you continuing to deal with a person who isn't willing to communicate, to you the same types of feelings. Wow, Scorpio. But yeah, there are other people. There are other people that you can enjoy your life with.